Advanced Counseling, Judgment and Readiness, Assignment 6, Reaction Card 4. I am Joël Sutton. Today is July the 1st, 2026. Prompt 1. On a confidence scale of 1 to 100%, how ready am I to work with severe and complex mental health concerns? Well, in previous reaction cards, I answered this question only looking at two metrics, personal and professional. Now that we have reached the conclusion of this class and I am frankly much more aware of the complexities and diverse range of problems that my future clients may be presenting, I felt compelled to break this down into a bit more nuanced presentation. And so for a personal ability, I broke this down into the three, I would say, theoretical orientations that I really subscribe to the most from a person-centered approach, that being humanistic, existentialist, and feminist. I think with regard to understanding how to engage clients from these perspectives, Rogerian or existentialist, Viktor Frankl, or feminist, looking at systems and power imbalances in society and how those forces can impact people, I think I'm pretty confident and capable, ready to rock and roll on that. However, from a professional ability, this class has really opened my eyes and awareness, as I said, to the vast complexities of various types of psychopathologies that I'm going to be encountering, and I felt rather overwhelmed eventually at the number of acronyms alone outlining all the different types of treatment plans or methods, everything from like ACT to CBT to on and on BT. There were so many of them that while I thought I had a great understanding of theoretical orientations, I'm starting to recognize that there is a really broad range of treatment techniques that I'm really only scratching the surface of. That said, I got my first copy of the DSM. I have not even opened it. Yay, it just came in the mail. And it's pretty heavy. And so that also just very much made me realize how much there is still to learn here. With regard to like developing treatment plans, I feel I have come a long way. The I Can Start model, I think is a really great framework, and I think that's something that I can begin applying, whether I'm writing it out in such a fashion or not. In the future, I can very much get behind that, and I understand a lot more the inner complexities between the therapeutic alliance and the directions that we need to take people with. Working with peers, other professionals, supervisors, collaborating, I think I'm really good to go on that one. I think I get along very well with people. Working with clients, I think based on my own personal and professional experiences, I think that's not going to be really a problem. I think the challenges are just basically going to be in understanding all the different diagnosable conditions and how to address those, and that will obviously come with practice. So I'm not too worried about it. Self-regulation of emotions and not like over empathizing with clients and internalizing some of their stress and anxiety, that's going to continue to be a problem, but I'm aware of it and able to work towards that. Prompt 2, development as a counselor. Analyze how my approach to counseling has evolved across the course. I think I just kind of answered that, actually. I have become much more aware of the diverse range of presenting problems, and I think that's a very good thing. I've also become quite a bit more aware of how to approach formulation of treatment plans. I thought it was really interesting, and I honestly gave myself a little bit of a chuckle when the book got to discussing of SMART plans. While I didn't exemplify my skills at writing SMART plans in module 5, I think, that's something that we utilize in my practice as an educator at my school. We write SMART plans, and we help our students in our advisory programs to develop SMART plans, and we as professionals write them every year and review our progress at the end of the year with our leadership. So I thought that was really neat, and that's something I'm very much able to work with future clients on. One thing, though, that really jumped out at me, especially in the most recent module, I think it was module 6, in the video with Jeremy and his schizoaffective diagnosis and his mannerisms, um, it became much more aware to me how people who I previously would have thought of at some point in my life as, being crazy, having hallucinations, delusions of grandeur, whatever, believing that they could fly, see ghosts, or whatever. Yeah, there was a time that I very much would have looked at that and thought, man, that person's kind of wacko. They're out there, they're crazy. But now, I certainly don't have that same thought, and I haven't for probably 2 decades, but I have an appreciation for a fact that they may very much simply be living a sense of reality that diverges from kind of the collective shared reality that the rest of us tend to experience together, right? That whether it's something neurologically different, chemical exposure, or other, they, I don't really see the idea of crazy as being crazy anymore as kind of a matter of perspective. And it's quite fascinating to me. And I think, like, I was actually visiting a courthouse recently, and across the street from the courthouse was a homeless day center here in the city of Tulsa. And I saw the variety of people outside. Many of them seemed to be behaving in a way that immediately my brain started firing off, and I was wondering, oh, I wonder if that person has a schizophrenia or some kind of related disorder just by some of their mannerisms. And I thought, that I actually I wanted to go over and talk to them, and I found myself watching that video of Jeremy and thinking, like, I could be that person's friend under my new framework of understanding. I find it fascinating. So I'm kind of rambling here, but I think that the big point of that is to say that my awareness of these disorders has really, really evolved and shaped how I see them. Prompt 3, crisis and ongoing care integration. Explain how I could balance intermediate stabilization. I think it's pretty simple. Intermediate stabilization to me is it's a here and now focus. We have to address the person in the here and the now, and I have to collaborate with them. If they are really, really struggling, and they are in an heightened hypervigilant state of anxiety or something, I may have to get rather directive with them. I may have to really try to extend my presence to break through and get them to maybe do some kind of grounding exercise, whether it's a breathing or an environmental awareness or something to bring them back to the present and help calm their system. That said, the point of stabilization is to facilitate an ability to contain whatever challenge they're currently facing and set a foundation for or develop a state of readiness to move into a long-term formulation of strategy and coping methods to address their presenting problems. Long-term is obviously future focused, and with that, my goals is to help the client become autonomous, to become empowered, to be able to work and function independently without me in the present, to help them in those grounding stabilization moments. So yeah, stabilization here and now, ground the client, triage the problems in the immediate moment, and help establish that baseline from which we can develop long-term autonomous goals. Prompt number 4, identify an ineffective, harmful approach when working with severe disorders and explain why it's problematic. A bunch of these came to mind, and I know the prompt says 1. I put 2 here because that's just the way I roll. The first one here is avoiding premature confrontation, especially with people who are perhaps avoidant, like avoidant personality disorders, people who are narcissistic, people who may be frequently experiencing psychotic episodes, because in each of these conditions, these people may have a relatively fragile sense of self-esteem. And when we jump to conclusions or look at that insight moment of awareness, or try to contradict or raise alternative ways of thinking about things that contradict their understanding of reality, or self, it can be very challenging to them. And in many of those cases, especially like with narcissistic personalities, they may self-terminate the therapeutic process early, and that doesn't help anybody. Another one is being overly directive, advice giving, or providing personal support to a person who has dependency issues, maybe dependent personality disorder, because in that case they can become dependent on the therapist, or in this case me, and that is quite contrary to the goals of treating a person with dependency, is trying to help them learn to become independent. So yeah, there's two. Prompt 5, interdisciplinary role. What is my role as a counselor when a client may require medication, hospitalization, coordinated care, includes scope and practice considerations? Okay, so I think that the role as I see it as a counselor is kind of like I'm trying to think, as an analogy, perhaps it's almost like an office manager, that when a client is in and out of hospitalization, maybe they have psychotic episodes, suicide ideations, attempted suicide, whatever, they're probably needing to work with a broader community, and the counselor is kind of that central hub for it. They're the person that's providing the immediate support or ongoing therapeutic organizational support, right? Providing the coping skills, addressing whatever the symptoms are, whether it's depression or manic issues, and trying to help them learn to accept, address. Maybe in CBT, we're looking at cognitions that affect behaviors. But as the counselor, we have to be able to refer to social support services, to hospitals, other doctors, clinicians, psychiatrists, places where they can get medications to address those psychotic issues. We may need to intervene and work with families, spouses, children, even, especially if situations of duty to warn or arise. Then we have to bridge and branch out, maybe work with law enforcement, and basically, like I said, be that central hub or kind of office manager of the team of helping professionals and community members within the client's life. We are also, of course, an advocate. We are trying to provide education and resources, both therapeutic resources as well as social support resources, to help the client address whatever they're presenting with. What are some reflections of myself as a counselor based on the concepts studied in the course so far? I think I've alluded to a lot of that, and I don't know, honestly, if it was in this class or in my human growth and development, but recently I made an analogy in another video, or a comparison to the importance of being earnest, whereby there's a scene where the main character, Ernest, says, essentially, that there is so much I know, yet so little of everything that I know, right? And that brings me back to my beautiful new DSM-5. It was a bit overwhelming, so I immediately sprung for the desk reference. And because of my area that I want to specialize in is in LGB support, I picked up 2 other books on Amazon. Yes, I am back in America, Affirming Counseling and Psychological Practice with Trans and Non-Binaries, as well as the LGBTQ Mental Health Workbook that just came out from a really, really positive therapist, Dr. Kiki, what is her name? Feeling. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I saw a couple videos. She seems really, really amazing. Anyway, the point is, this course has really, really helped me to become much more aware of those diverse natures of all the clients out there. And I know it's just the tip of the iceberg. So I guess the reflection of myself is I've gone from a place of I expect to work with XYZ to recognizing, whoa, XYZ is going to include ABC and everything else under the rainbow, not just the LGBTQ plus rainbow. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I hope that was informative. The only real reference I have besides the DSM here is our textbook. Yep. Thanks for watching.